Walking through Athens today feels like touring a theme park designed for tourists, not a city where Greeks actually live. In neighborhoods like Exarkia, families who lived there for generations have been evicted as investors snap up properties for vacation rentals. Short-term rentals now make up roughly 1 in 5 homes in central areas, transforming residential streets into hotel districts where locals can't afford to rent, let alone buy. But the real crisis isn't just about housing costs, it's about identity. When your own city becomes unaffordable and your neighbors are replaced by vacation rentals, what does it mean to call Greece home? The transformation has happened so fast that the numbers themselves tell a story of acceleration that few could have predicted. The numbers that tell the real story. Property prices reveal the scale of this crisis in stark detail. In 2020, Athens averaged €1,800 per square meter. By 2024, Bank of Greece data shows prices reaching €2,500 per square meter, representing substantial growth that has outpaced wage increases by enormous margins. This acceleration has left Greek buyers competing in a market increasingly designed for foreign wealth rather than local incomes. Thessaloniki mirrors this pattern with 12% growth in the third quarter of 2024 alone, transforming Greece's second city from an affordable alternative into another impossible market for locals. The city that once offered refuge for Athenians priced out of the capital now presents its own mathematical barriers to home ownership. Meanwhile, Greek wages have barely moved. The median monthly salary sits at €780, while minimum wage reaches €830 monthly. These figures exist in a completely different economic universe from housing costs. The average Greek now spends over half their income on rent, according to EU data, a proportion that makes saving for homeownership virtually impossible for most citizens. The crisis has spread beyond major cities into Greece's previously affordable regions. Crete Chania now averages €2,100 per square meter, up from €1,200 in 2020. The island of Syros, population 21,000, has witnessed property values triple in 5 years as wealthy foreigners discover its proximity to Mykonos. Even industrial cities with limited tourist appeal have experienced dramatic price growth. This represents more than market forces at work. Greece is being systematically restructured for foreign consumption rather than domestic habitation. The evidence appears in neighborhood-level data that reveals the scale of displacement. In Athens' Kukaki district, 73% of properties listed for sale in 2025 target foreign buyers or investors, compared to 31% in 2020. Local real estate agents openly advertise that Greek buyers need not apply for premium properties. Exarkia, the bohemian neighborhood long associated with students and artists, exemplifies this transformation. Apartments that housed Greek families for generations now sell exclusively to international buyers at prices exceeding €4,000 per square meter. The neighborhood's character has shifted so dramatically that longtime residents describe feeling like strangers in their own community. Coffee shops that once served locals for decades have closed, replaced by establishments catering to tourists and short-term residents. The professional middle class faces perhaps the cruelest squeeze. A civil engineer with 10 years' experience earns approximately €1,200 monthly in Athens. At current property prices, purchasing a modest 60 square meter apartment would require 160 months of gross salary, assuming no other expenses. That same professional in 2015 needed 95 months of salary for equivalent housing. The middle class is being systematically priced out of homeownership in their own country. Rental markets tell an equally devastating story. Studio apartments in central Athens now command €600 800 monthly, consuming the majority of median Greek wages before taxes. Young professionals share cramped spaces or live with parents well into their 30s, not by choice but by mathematical necessity. The rental market has been captured by short-term tourism, leaving locals to compete for scraps. Even Greece's islands, once bastions of affordable Mediterranean living, have succumbed to impossible pricing. Naxos, traditionally a working-class island dependent on agriculture and fishing, now sees property prices that exceed those in major European cities. Local teachers and police officers commute from mainland Greece because they cannot afford to live where they work. Islands that sustained communities for millennia are being emptied of their permanent populations. Foreign investment flows reveal the driving forces behind these numbers. Golden Visa program participants invested €2.8 billion in Greek real estate in 2024 alone, up from €1.1 billion in 2020. The recent increase of minimum investment thresholds to €800,000 has not slowed demand, but concentrated it in prime urban areas, intensifying pressure on neighborhoods where Greeks actually live and work. The geographical spread demonstrates the systematic nature of this crisis. Small towns like Nafplio, with a population of just 14,000, have experienced property price increases of 89% since 2020. The island of Paros, once affordable for young Greek families, now requires a household income of €4,500 monthly to afford median housing costs. These figures exist in a different economic universe from Greek reality. Construction data reveals another dimension of the problem. New residential construction has focused almost exclusively on luxury developments targeting foreign buyers. Of 12,000 new residential units completed in Greater Athens during 2024, fewer than 800 were priced within reach of median Greek incomes. The housing market is building for wealth, not need. Professional surveys paint a bleak picture of expectations. In 2025, 89% of Greeks under 35 believe they will never own property in their preferred location, up from 61% in 2020. Among those aged 25-40, 67% have altered major life decisions, delaying marriage or children due to housing costs. These are not temporary adjustments but permanent restructuring of life possibilities. The human cost appears in migration patterns within Greece itself. Young Greeks are abandoning not just expensive neighborhoods but entire regions. The Aegean Islands have lost 12% of their year-round population since 2020, while Athens' suburbs beyond the metro system have seen population increases as locals seek any affordable option. What emerges from these numbers is not a housing market experiencing normal price discovery, but a systematic transfer of Greek residential space to international capital. The economy is growing, investment is flowing, and tourism is booming, yet Greek citizens find themselves strangers in their own housing market. The mathematics have become impossible through rapid transformation that has severed the connection between Greek incomes and Greek housing costs. But numbers alone cannot capture what happens when entire neighborhoods stop functioning as places where people actually live and work. When your neighborhood becomes a hotel district. Walk through Kukaki at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday morning and count the people. You'll see maybe a dozen residents heading to work, but hundreds of rolling suitcases echoing off empty apartment walls. This isn't a neighborhood anymore. It's a hotel district disguised as residential streets. Building after building displays the telltale signs of Airbnb conversion, keypad locks, laminated instructions in 5 languages, and windows that never show signs of permanent habitation. The morning bustle of Greek families getting children ready for school has been replaced by tourists dragging luggage to their next Instagram location. The statistics behind this transformation reveal how completely residential Athens has been colonized by short-term rentals. In 2020, Central Athens hosted 18,000 active Airbnb listings. By 2025, that number has exploded to 34,000 listings, nearly doubling in 5 years. In neighborhoods like Monastiraki and Plaka, about 20% of homes are now tourist-only units. These aren't just spare rooms or occasional rentals. We're talking about entire apartment buildings purchased specifically for tourist accommodation. The economic mathematics make resident displacement inevitable. A 2-bedroom apartment in Exarkia that might rent to a Greek family for €650 monthly can generate €3,200 monthly as a short-term rental during tourist season. Even accounting for vacancy periods and platform fees, landlords earn 300–400% more from tourists than locals. The choice becomes obvious, and property owners have made it systematically across Athens. Entire buildings have been converted not by individual apartment owners, but by investment companies that purchase residential properties specifically for short-term rental conversion. Golden Visa data reveals that 94% of properties purchased through the program have been repurposed into rentals rather than serving as actual residences. This transformation accelerated dramatically after 2021 as remote work and digital nomadism exploded globally. Athens became a destination for location-independent workers seeking Mediterranean charm at prices lower than Paris or London. But these digital nomads, earning salaries from expensive home countries, compete directly with Greeks for the same housing stock. Tourism now fuels over 25% of Greece's GDP, yet the average tourism worker earns just €1,100 monthly, while city living costs reach €2,000. Greeks cannot compete with tourism demand when their own industry prices them out of their neighborhoods. Infrastructure collapse follows inevitably when neighborhoods lose their permanent populations. Gazi, once a thriving residential area, now operates at 15% permanent occupancy during peak tourist months. The local elementary school closed in 2023 due to insufficient enrollment as families fled rising rents. The pharmacy that served residents for 40 years shuttered because tourists don't need prescription refills or health consultations. The corner bakery that opened at 6 a.m. for Greek commuters now opens at 10 a.m. and sells croissants to tourists at triple the price. Local businesses have been systematically replaced by tourist-focused establishments that serve nobody after October. Traditional tavernas that offered affordable meals to residents have become expensive tourist traps with English menus and inflated prices. The hardware store where locals bought household necessities became a souvenir shop selling mass-produced trinkets. The dry cleaner closed because tourists don't need clothing alterations. Entire commercial ecosystems that supported residential life have vanished. The hidden costs extend far beyond lost businesses into basic urban functioning. Garbage collection strains under the weight of constant tourist turnover. Water pressure drops during peak summer months as short-term rentals consume resources designed for stable residential use. Noise complaints skyrocket as tourist accommodations operate without the social contracts that govern residential buildings. Neighbors who once knew each other for decades now live adjacent to constantly changing strangers, with no investment in community harmony. Building maintenance deteriorates as landlords maximize short-term profits rather than invest in long-term property care. Staircases designed for families show wear from constant suitcase traffic. Elevator systems break down under tourism loads they were never designed to handle. Common areas become sterile spaces managed for tourist impressions rather than resident comfort. The social fabric tears as neighborhoods lose the permanent relationships that create community. Children grow up without neighborhood friends because other families have been priced out. Elderly residents find themselves isolated as familiar faces disappear. Local festivals and community events disappear because there's no stable population to organize or attend them. The Greek concept of Jaitonia, the intimate neighborhood community, becomes impossible when your neighbors change weekly. Policy responses have proven inadequate to the scale of transformation. Athens banned new short-term rental licenses in central areas starting 2025, but this restriction only applies to future licenses. Existing properties continue operating, and the policy cannot reverse the conversion that already occurred. The licensing ban also drives short-term rental expansion into previously affordable outer neighborhoods, spreading the displacement rather than stopping it. Tax increases on short-term rentals, while potentially discouraging some operators, cannot compete with the fundamental economic incentives. Even with higher taxes, tourist rentals remain far more profitable than residential leases. The policy burden falls on smaller Greek property owners, while international investment companies simply absorb increased costs as business expenses. The transformation has reached a tipping point where reversing it may be impossible. Once a neighborhood loses its permanent population and supporting businesses, recreating residential community requires massive intervention that Greece cannot afford. Buildings designed and renovated for tourist use don't easily convert back to family housing. The specialized businesses that support residential life don't return once tourist establishments dominate. Entire Greek communities have vanished not through war or natural disaster, but through economic forces that made residential life unsustainable. The process continues expanding outward from city centers into previously stable neighborhoods, leaving behind hotel districts where Greeks once lived. Yet this displacement represents only the visible surface of a much deeper economic trap that has fundamentally reshaped how Greece functions as a country. The tourism economy that devours its own. Greece's tourism miracle has become its curse. The country that bet everything on becoming Europe's playground now finds itself trapped in an economy that systematically destroys the communities it depends on. Tourism's direct contribution to Greece's GDP reached 13% in 2023, totaling €28.5 billion, the highest share historically for the sector. When you factor in tourism's indirect effects through multipliers, that figure jumps to approximately 30% of the entire economy. Greece has become more dependent on tourism than almost any developed nation on Earth. The numbers look spectacular on paper. In 2023, arrivals reached 32.7 million tourists, a 17.6% increase compared to 2022. Including cruise passengers pushes that figure to 36.1 million arrivals. For a country of just 10.4 million people, this means Greece hosts more than 3 times its population in tourists annually. The sector continues expanding in 2025, with projections showing even higher visitor numbers. Politicians celebrate these figures as evidence of economic recovery and international competitiveness. But record-breaking tourist numbers have created pressure that Greek infrastructure was never designed to handle. Athens' water systems, built for 3.8 million residents, now serve peak summer populations exceeding 5 million people. The additional demand during tourist season causes water pressure drops across residential neighborhoods as hotels and short-term rentals consume resources at unsustainable rates. Sewage treatment plants overflow during peak months, sending untreated waste into the Mediterranean. Garbage collection systems collapse under the weight of tourist consumption patterns that generate 3 times more trash per person than local residents. The employment numbers reveal tourism's fundamental contradiction. Nearly 2 million Greeks earn their living from tourism, representing roughly 20% of the workforce. Yet the average tourism worker earns only €1,100 monthly, barely above minimum wage. In Athens, where tourism jobs concentrate, the average cost of living sits at nearly €2,000 monthly. Tourism workers cannot afford to live in the cities where they serve tourists. Hotel cleaners in Mykonos commute from mainland Greece because island housing costs exceed their annual salaries. Restaurant servers in Santorini sleep 4 to a room in staff dormitories because rental apartments cost more than their monthly wages. The seasonal employment trap keeps Greeks locked in poverty despite tourism's apparent success. Most tourism jobs last only 4–6 months annually, leaving workers unemployed during winter months. A hotel receptionist might earn €900 monthly during tourist season, but faces 8 months of unemployment or severely reduced income. The Greek government counts these as full employment statistics, but workers experience chronic financial instability that makes long-term planning impossible. Young Greeks cycle through seasonal tourism jobs without building skills or advancing careers, trapped in an economy that offers survival but not prosperity. Tourism revenue increasingly flows away from local communities into international corporate structures. Major hotel chains like Marriott, Hilton, and Accor hotels have expanded rapidly across Greece, capturing premium market segments while Greek-owned establishments struggle with high operating costs and seasonal cash flow problems. Booking platforms like Booking.com and Expedia extract 15–25% commissions from Greek hotels and restaurants, sending billions in revenue to foreign shareholders. Airbnb takes similar cuts from short-term rental income while providing no local employment or tax contribution equivalent to traditional hotels. Cruise tourism exemplifies this extractive model. Massive ships dock in Greek ports, disgorge thousands of passengers for 6–8 hour visits, then depart with minimal local spending. Cruise passengers buy duty-free goods on ships, eat meals included in their packages, and spend an average of just €23 per person in Greek ports. Meanwhile, their presence overwhelms local infrastructure, creates massive crowds that deter other tourists, and generates enormous waste disposal costs that Greek municipalities must absorb. Greek islands illustrate how tourism success destroys livability for locals. Santorini's permanent population has dropped 40% since 2000 as housing costs soared beyond local incomes. Teachers, police officers, and healthcare workers commute by ferry from neighboring islands because they cannot afford Santorini housing. The island's hospital operates with chronic staff shortages because medical professionals cannot live where they work. During peak summer months, local services collapse under tourist demand, while permanent residents face water rationing and power outages. The social costs compound as Greek communities disintegrate under tourism pressure. Traditional festivals disappear because venues get converted to tourist accommodations and local populations scatter to affordable areas. Children grow up without neighborhood friends as families flee rising costs. Elderly Greeks find themselves isolated as familiar communities transform into anonymous tourism zones. The Greek concept of social solidarity breaks down when neighbors become temporary strangers with no investment in community welfare. Tourism jobs systematically fail to provide living wages adequate for current housing costs. A hotel housekeeper earning €800 monthly cannot afford Athens' rent averaging €650 for a studio apartment, leaving just €150 for food, transportation, and other necessities. Restaurant workers in tourist areas face similar mathematics, serving meals that cost more than their daily wages while living in overcrowded shared accommodations far from work. The tourism economy creates massive wealth that flows upward to property owners and international corporations while workers struggle with housing poverty. The fundamental unsustainability becomes clear when you examine who benefits from tourism growth versus who bears its costs. Property owners see asset values multiply as tourism demand drives speculation. International hotel chains extract profits that leave Greece entirely. Digital platforms collect commissions without providing local employment. Meanwhile, Greek workers face housing displacement, job insecurity, environmental degradation, and community destruction. The economy that supposedly serves Greece actually serves international capital at Greek expense. This model cannot continue indefinitely because it systematically destroys the conditions that make tourism possible. Greek islands losing their permanent populations cannot maintain the infrastructure and cultural authenticity that attract visitors. Neighborhoods converted entirely to tourist accommodations lose the residential character that made them appealing destinations. Environmental degradation threatens the natural beauty that forms tourism's foundation. Greece is consuming its own assets to generate short-term revenue for foreign shareholders. The question becomes whether Greece's tourism-dependent model can ever serve Greek people rather than simply extracting value from Greek resources. But tourism alone cannot explain how Greece reached this crisis point. The housing catastrophe has deeper roots in policy decisions made during the country's darkest economic hour, when desperate measures seemed like salvation, but created problems far worse than the original crisis. The Golden Visa goldmine that broke Greece. The Golden Visa program launched in 2013 as Greece's desperate attempt to attract foreign capital during its darkest economic hour. With unemployment at 27% and international creditors demanding dramatic action, selling residency permits to wealthy foreigners seemed like brilliant salvation. The program required just €250,000 in real estate investment, positioned as a lifeline that would inject cash into the devastated property market while helping Greece recover from its debt crisis. Politicians promised this initiative would revitalize dormant construction sectors and bring much-needed foreign currency into the economy. The program succeeded beyond anyone's projections. From launch through 2023, Golden Visa investments totaled over €2.6 billion, with more than 31,000 permits granted to main applicants and their families. Chinese investors dominated early participation, followed by Russians, Turks, and Lebanese buyers seeking European residency. The numbers look spectacular on government balance sheets, providing concrete evidence that Greece could attract international capital despite its economic troubles. Success bred expansion as investment thresholds increased and program marketing reached wealthy enclaves across Asia and the Middle East. But the 2023 decision to raise minimum investments to €800,000 in prime areas revealed how completely the program had captured Greece's property market. Rather than cooling foreign demand, the price increase triggered a 60% surge in applications during the 5 months following the announcement. Wealthy investors rushed to secure properties before higher thresholds took effect, accelerating the very displacement the policy aimed to address. The increase to €800,000 simply concentrated foreign investment in the most expensive neighborhoods, while maintaining the fundamental dynamic that prices out Greeks. These higher investment minimums created perverse incentives that intensified wealth concentration rather than distributing it. Foreign buyers now target premium properties worth €800,000 or more, competing directly with Greece's wealthiest citizens for the most desirable real estate. Meanwhile, the €400,000 threshold in secondary areas attracts investors to previously affordable neighborhoods where middle-class Greeks once had purchasing power. The program has systematically captured both luxury and middle-market segments, leaving Greeks to compete for whatever remains. The most damaging aspect of Golden Visa investment is how properties are used after purchase. Research reveals that 94% of Golden Visa properties convert to rental operations rather than contributing to Greece's housing supply. These aren't families moving to Greece and joining local communities. They're investors extracting rental income from Greek real estate while maintaining primary residences elsewhere. Properties purchased for €500,000 generate €3,000 monthly through short-term rentals, creating annual returns of 7–9%, while property values appreciate simultaneously. Geographic concentration has turned specific neighborhoods into foreign investment zones where Greeks cannot compete. Athens' Kukaki district now sees 67% of property sales going to Golden Visa investors, driving average prices to €4,200 per square meter. Piraeus experienced a 28.9% year-on-year price increase as foreign buyers discovered its proximity to central Athens and ferry connections to islands. Coastal areas of Athens saw 15–20% price increases as investors sought properties suitable for luxury short-term rentals. The islands tell an even starker story of foreign capture. Mykonos and Santorini, included in the €800,000 premium zone, have become playgrounds for international wealth where local property ownership has become mathematically impossible. A typical Mykonos villa purchased through Golden Visa programs costs €1.2 million, requiring a Greek household to earn €15,000 monthly for mortgage qualification. The median Greek household earns €1,400 monthly. Island communities that sustained families for generations now serve as seasonal real estate portfolios for foreign investors. Golden Visa money flows through Greece without circulating in local economies. Purchase transactions involve foreign banks, international law firms, and offshore corporate structures that minimize tax obligations. Rental income from Golden Visa properties often transfers abroad through management companies based in tax havens. Construction and renovation contracts go to international firms rather than local workers. The 2.6 billion euros in Golden Visa investment has generated far less local economic activity than domestic property purchases would produce. Tax advantages make foreign property investment more profitable than Greek ownership, creating systematic disadvantages for locals. The government eliminated real estate taxes on 26 islands in 2020, primarily benefiting foreign owners who use properties seasonally. Reduced single property taxes favor investors who can navigate complex filing requirements, while Greeks face bureaucratic barriers that increase their effective tax burden. Foreign investment companies structure purchases to minimize ongoing tax obligations, advantages unavailable to Greek families buying homes. The program has created a two-tier property market where international wealth competes against local incomes in the same neighborhoods. Properties marketed to Golden Visa investors price 30–50% above comparable homes sold to Greeks, reflecting the reality that foreign buyers can afford premium pricing that locals cannot match. Real estate agents openly maintain separate inventories for foreign and domestic buyers, with the best properties reserved for international clients who can close quickly with cash payments. Property speculation has replaced housing provision as the primary function of Greece's real estate market. Golden Visa investors purchase properties based on rental yield projections and appreciation potential rather than housing need or community contribution. Entire buildings get converted to short-term rental operations, removing dozens of potential family homes from the market simultaneously. Neighborhoods transform into investment portfolios, where the highest bidder determines land use rather than community planning or local housing policy. The policy designed to save Greece through foreign investment has accelerated the displacement of Greeks from their own cities. What began as emergency economic medicine has become permanent restructuring that prioritizes international capital over local communities. Golden Visa success is measured in investment volumes and permit approvals rather than Greek housing affordability or community stability. Greece has essentially auctioned its cities to the highest bidders through a program that was supposed to provide temporary economic relief, creating a permanent transfer mechanism that converts Greek housing into international assets, while the people who built these communities find themselves with nowhere left to go. The Great Greek Exodus continues.